Hello, welcome back, Internet people, for one of the sporadic updates during the non-football season of your Bearded Brothers with yet another sports podcast. My name is Matt. Over there you can see...
I have a bird.
That's Chris and Loki. Loki is apparently demanding attention the moment we decided to record. Very cat-like, that Loki. Although I think he might take offense to that if he heard it. So, why are we back now? Well, it's because a couple of major things have happened, and there's about to be a major thing that happens, but I want to get all of this in before the next major thing happens. So, both the NBA and NHL finals are over, and we can congratulate their champs. Both the NBA and NHL drafts have happened, and we can cover down on that. There's also been some NBA and NHL trades and free agency news, at least in the NBA, because NHL free agency starts officially tomorrow. So there's some teams negotiating with UFAs right now, so we could see a bunch of contracts with rights holders signed today on a bunch of those NHL teams. I'll go over the big ones that I know of off the top of my head. I don't believe the Wild have very many UFAs that they have to worry about. So that's good for the Wild. There was an interesting trade that the Wild made at the draft last night. And we'll go over that. And or yesterday afternoon, actually. And there's I'm trying to think here off the top of my head. There is one other piece of news that is tangentially NHL related that I want to go over. So, let's start with the NBA, because that's the subject that Chris and I know the least about.
I have a bird mustache.
You have a bird mustache. You know what? We should call it moustache, just to sound fucking weird.
I can't touch my mustache because otherwise she get very angry.
Oh, all right. So, NBA. Congratulations to the Boston Celtics, who absolutely obliterated the Dallas Mavericks in the finals. The Mavs took one game, and I half think that's because Boston just wanted to win in Boston. That's literally what I think that was. It was, we don't care about this game. We're going to go back to Boston and cream them. Which is what happened. 100% what happened. But congratulations to the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics have won their now league-leading 18th NBA title. So, congratulations to them. I will take nothing away from them for that. Now, what do I want to say next? Okay, let's talk about the NBA draft. So it was highlighted by a couple of interesting things. First off, the first player picked was European. I believe he was French. And he became the number one overall pick. This is a trend that I think we're starting to see more of now in basketball, is these EuroLeague players being high draft picks in the NBA. I don't know if this is going to affect the NCAA in a significant fashion. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if this affects, because if it's better to go play pro in the Euro Leagues, why would you stay and play in college? Unless you felt like you wanted the education. Like, they were talking about it for hockey, too. A lot of times it makes more sense to go play for the WHL or the QMJHL or the OHL, or even over in Europe for a couple of seasons and play against, major talent than it does to go to like a college.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
You can go
That's been true for a while, to be honest.
Yes, but the reason that some people still go to the college and that some colleges still churn
Because
out
they want to have an education afterwards.
because it's easier to get back into the college. Like once you're done, you play a year or two. Once you're done and you're going to go to the NHL, when you're done in the NHL, or even for the summertime, you can go ahead and take some classes and you can still get your degree.
Yeah, because there are guys that I know that are specifically hockey guys around in actually Minnesota that play and live around here, but quite often, like they typically have like their own ranches or their own farms, and then that's what they do during the summer when they're not playing. Granted, not every player obviously can do that, so some of them probably get other side gigs like either computer programming or whatever else it is that they can do, you know? So, or quite often a lot of them will end up having a business that they run on the side, you know? So, it's one of those things that it just makes sense logically to do it that way. And if you don't have the education, it makes it a little harder to do some of those things. Obviously, if you're going to be a farmer, you don't need an education to do that. But if you're going to do like possibly anything to do with computer programming or even running a business, sometimes having that education can be useful. So, I think it's one of the things that does make sense because it shows a long-term forward thinking, right? The idea of what am I going to do after I'm done playing hockey, kind of thing. And people that don't do that, maybe they're thinking that I can retire with how much money I make in the NHL, or I can start another business afterwards, which is totally possible. But it's just easier when you have that education to do that. So,
100%. And that, or if you want to get into a front office and actually do what like Stevie Y is doing right now, Steve Eiserman, it would be a lot better if you had some sort of business degree.
Some sort of, exactly.
Yeah,
business
to
degree
fall
or
into,
some sort of
so you
education
could go
that kind of
GMing or
shows that.
coaching or whatever else you want to do. Yeah, 100%. And that makes the most sense. So, before we get into hockey, NBA draft, completely. So, the first overall pick was Zachary Risacher. And I probably fucked that name up.
Probably.
I do believe he is French. Now, to me...
Goddamn Frenchies.
Frenchies!
You sure he's not Belgium?
I believe he is French.
It's probably French. It's probably French. It sounds very French.
He is from...
I just know that there's some...
Bouillon-Brise, France.
I just know that there's some French-sounding names also that comes from the one side of Belgium a little bit.
Yeah, but he is 6'9", 215 pounds. He's got a pretty good wingspan. Apparently, he's a good free throw shooter. Yada, yada, yada. The top five rounded out. Washington took Alexander Sarr. Houston took Reed Shepherd. The Spurs took Stephen Castle. And Detroit, who, by the way, fired their coach after 1 year and still owe him like $46 million, took Ron Holland II. I find my favorite players. So, San Antonio then had the 8th overall pick, and they took Rob Dillingham, whom they then traded away to Minnesota. Which is kind of upsetting because Rob Dillingham grew up a Spurs fan. So he gets drafted by the team he was a fan of, only to get traded away. Like, psych! Like, I felt so bad for him. The other one that I thought was interesting was Matas Berzilis. He sounds foreign. He's not. He grew up outside of Chicago. His parents are both foreign. I believe they're Lithuanian, and I believe they both played basketball in Lithuania.
Gotcha.
But he grew up a Bulls fan and got drafted by the Bulls.
The Bulls, huh? Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of nice.
How shocking. Loki, dude, come on, man.
Not long after that, the Clippers took a guy named, a legacy player named Devin Carter, whose father was Anthony Carter. And I find that funny because...
Sorry, that was a dick move.
It was AC/DC.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, in the end, the Wolves did not hold on to any of their second-round picks. They traded completely out of the second round. I think some of that has to do with cap space. So they don't have to sign another player other than the two they already got in the first round. Now they don't have to worry about any second rounders, etc., etc. Um, the other NBA news that I have that I do know of. Oh, and Bronny James got drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, I really don't care, to be honest with you, about
Yeah,
that guy,
I'm just going to say Bronny and Braun can now play together. But honestly, I think Bronny should have stayed in college another couple of years. I don't think he's better than a bench player. He's definitely not his dad.
No.
So we'll see if that comes to anything.
He's getting a lot of publicity just for the fact of who his dad is.
Exactly, and I think that's a thing, but at least they're doing it better.
I'd have more. Like, at least he's not trying to ride it real bad, but at the same time, like, I feel like I have more respect for those individuals that try to distance themselves and, like, I'm not my dad. Let me do my own thing. But he's not really quite doing that. I don't know.
Brendan Rice.
Yeah.
Brendan Rice is like, I didn't even know that he was Jerry Rice's kid.
Yeah, I didn't even know that until, I mean,
like the draft, like right around the draft, that became a thing. I was like, oh, okay. But at least they're not like, the Ball family, you know?
Yeah.
And now I am glad that
it's kind of like the same thing. Like, sorry, I'm gonna go on a slight tangent. It's like the same thing with, like, you know, the whole Mannings thing, like Arch Manning. Like, I get it. I get the hype. All right, I understand it. It's another Manning. Look how good he is. But, like, for fuck's sake, he hasn't played an actual game. Can we fucking relax and stop hyping the shit out of this kid? Did you see that the NCAA like brought out their stats for the game, like for like where the teams sit, right? Texas's like offense is rated like 90, what is it, 92, 94, something like that. Like, I get it. And I know that he's not even the starter. I know that the starter is Quinn Ewers, right? I understand that. But it's still ridiculous. And I just...
I get that too.
I get that, like, the name carries pedigree to a certain degree, but at the same time, like, can we stop treating these people like they're fucking racehorses? Just because they come from the same family line doesn't mean they're going to be fucking amazing.
You're 100%. You're 100% correct. I like legacy players, but I totally get where you're coming from.
Like, if we see them play and they play like they're either cousins or their brothers or their fathers, then I think, okay, now we can get on that. We can start talking about that. But until we actually see something, can we dial it back a little bit? Like, just because he trains well during off season or we see him throw some beautiful passes isn't indicative of how they're going to play.
No,
so
100%.
Yeah.
That's 100% accurate. We did see, though, during that spring game that he had, he looked really, really good. Now,
he did.
Yes,
but I'd like
that's
to see
a
him
spring.
in
That's a spring
scrimmage
game, but that's not. That's not full speed actual competition.
Yeah,
it's as close as we've seen him.
Yeah,
but it's still not, full on, full bore. Let's do this. So
exactly. So, like, I get the sample size is small, and what we've seen is like, oh my god, that looks great. But again,
it's a small sample size. 100%. I'm not. Yeah. I'm not sitting here like, we've seen more now. Again, it's even with the hockey kids.
Exactly.
Because we're going to get into it. One of the players who was drafted this year was a kid named Tej. T-I-J. Tej. Something like that.
Yeah.
Iginla. And if anybody knows that, that's Jerome Iginla's son. Now, he's been playing a lot of hockey. His sister plays a buttload of hockey. It's a hockey family, and I get that 110%. But I don't know, like, I haven't been able to watch him, so I don't know if he's supposedly not 100% NHL ready. He'll be at least a year, maybe two, before he breaks in. But there are already people who wanted the Flames to draft him, and I was
legacy player.
Yeah, and like, he went higher than where the Flames had it, so I thought he might drop out of the top 10. But he didn't. He didn't. Anyway, so the thing I know about the Timberwolves pick that they traded for, Rod Dillingham. He's small, but he's a spark plug, apparently. He's one of those guys that's just all energy, go, go, go. He's in. What did he have last year?
I don't know.
I'm
You
trying
tell
to
me.
think because I can't remember. I know he had about 15. I want to say it was 15 minutes a game. He was scoring right around 20 points a game. Or it might be reversed. In 20 minutes, he was scoring 15 points, which is still, if you think about it, most of the guys, most of the starters get like 30 minutes a game, right?
Yeah.
In like 20
Well,
minutes, he was still
roughly,
getting, in 20 minutes, he was still getting 15 points a game, which if you average that out, give him another 10 minutes, how many more points does he wind up with? He was doing pretty good
It's
off
hard.
the bench.
I mean, I was gonna say you can't really do those stats in that way, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it
Because you
doesn't
know that the longer you are on, the longer you're out, the more tired you get, the less likely you're going to earn as many points. But I get it. I get it.
The other
idea
object
is
is the
you'll
more
still
you're
earn-
out, the more chances you get to score points.
The more chances you have.
The-
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Statistically, yes, you're going to earn more points. How many more are you going to actually earn?
Now the other thing is he's also from Kentucky. He played at Kentucky, and as everybody, the announcers when I was watching the draft actually said about him, they said, "I'll guarantee you that whatever he heard from John Calipari on the bench is way worse than anything he's ever going to hear in the NBA."
I don't know if I 100% agree with that, but I get what they're trying to say there.
Well, basically, they're talking about the harsh language and
Yeah.
from the coach at the very least.
No, yeah.
You're probably going to hear pretty bad on the court because there are some people out there
Yeah.
that can talk massive shit.
Oh yeah.
Larry Bird was one of them, and he didn't even need to swear to do it. He just needed to just
get under
run
your
you
skin.
down. Get under
He
your
just
skin.
He just knew how to get under your skin.
Oh, it was so
Like it's almost like he just watched the other people's games and just knew like the pressure points of like, oh, he's gonna be mad if I say this little thing here. Like, and I don't think it even happens. He just happens to know.
My favorite was the very first time they ever did a 3-point contest in the NBA. He walked into the room during the All-Star game and he went, "I'm just here to see which one of y'all's coming in second."
Yeah. And the worst part is he fucking won it.
He
too.
won the
Like,
thing.
Jesus. He wasn't
you
joking.
can't talk shit like that unless you can back it up, and he could back up everything he said.
Honestly, I kind of wonder with the way he was so hyper competitive. I wonder if he did that to himself on purpose to get himself hyped up. Like I can't go down because otherwise I have to do it. Like put some pressure on himself almost, right?
Well, he said they asked him about it one day at one time, and he said, it's just one of those things that just kind of comes out. Like I didn't have a filter, so it was the first thing that came in my head, and it was the first thing that came out of my mouth.
Yeah, that sounds about right too, actually.
The hick from French lick.
To be fair, he does come across as one of those guys that doesn't really have much of a filter.
I don't think he
does. On his mind.
Because he grew up on a farm in French Lick, Indiana. I don't think there's a filter there.
No, he just kind of says what comes to mind, which is kind of fun in some ways because at least you're getting somebody fairly authentic, but also it leads to some weirdness on occasion.
I think my personal favorite was when Bill Lambier sledgehammered him under the basket. Yeah. And nobody liked Bill Lambier, but I think that was the point. He did not play basketball to be liked.
No.
And Bill asked about it. When asked about it later, Bill said, "I was just trying to break his fall. I was a victim of my own reputation." Larry had then immediately thrown the ball at Lambier. And Larry said, "I was just trying to toss the ball back to the ref. Bill's head got in the way."
In the way, yep.
Those two guys, to this very day.
Oh, they hate each other.
Oh, yeah. Somebody asked Bill, if you were at a table and Larry Bird sat down, Bill said, "I'd get up and go to another table."
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, they to this very day, they're gonna die hating each other.
Oh yeah, probably.
Oh yeah. Like some rivals put aside their differences way late in their careers.
Well, that's because mostly they just stop playing against each other, so the competitiveness of what was there no longer matters,
Well, I
right?
mean, even in like boxing or something,
Yeah,
because
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, they were huge, bitter rivals for a long time, and Joe really hated Ali. But after their third fight in Manila, it kind of mellowed. It kind of mellowed. Um, and they didn't exactly become friends, but they stopped
No.
being competitors against each other. So stuff like that, I think, is always interesting to see rivals become weird friends.
What's going on? What's going on? What?
All right. So the other big news that I have out of that, there have been a couple of weird trades, nothing major in the NBA. The biggest big news that I have, there have been a bunch of guys who have re-signed recently. I think the biggest trade, if I remember right, let me look because I want to remember this right. All right. Yeah, no. So there hasn't been. I thought there was rumors that the Bulls were trying to find a way to package Levine and a couple of things to the
Hmm.
Lakers for Davis. That never came through, and in fact, it doesn't look like there's a. The Bulls are even trying to attach a first rounder now to Levine to get rid of him, and nobody wants him. Which is a shame because a couple of years ago he was a hell of a player.
Well, unfortunately, time catches up to everyone.
Yep. So
Some sooner than others.
the only other big NBA news that I have is that Paul George has opted out. He is not taking his final option with the Clippers. He is going to the free agency market. So he's interested in a new deal with the Clippers, um, a deal with the Magic, or a deal with the Sixers. Those are the teams that he has said that he would like to speak to. So we will see how that all goes. There's been a bunch of re-signings, but no major trades, unlike in the NHL. So let's get into that, shall we?
Sure.
So we just about saw in the NHL Finals for the Stanley Cup, we just about saw a feat that has not been done, I believe, since the 40s or maybe earlier. And that is a reverse sweep. The Florida Panthers went up 3 games to nothing against the Edmonton Oilers, and then the Oilers convincingly won Game 4. They won Game 5. They won Game 6. And then lost 2-1 Game 7. And that final minute and a half, they looked dead in Game 7. So, very, very happy. Florida partied hard with the cup. They were at a bar called the Elbow Room. There were guys down on the street near the beach. One of them went, "Let me drink out of the cup." And so 2 guys, Kachuk and somebody else, literally poured beer out of the cup onto this guy from the second floor. It was bananas. Kachuk brought the cup across the street and jumped into the ocean with it. Uh, it was bonkers, man. Now, McDavid did something that hasn't been done since John Sebastian Jaguar did it, and that is he won the Conn Smythe, the most valuable player in the playoffs, while losing the cup, which is not something that happens very often. But congratulations to the Florida Panthers, your Stanley Cup champions for the first time ever in franchise history. There are a couple of guys, Okposo and a few others, that this was probably their last season. So they have won the cup. Their name is on the cup, etched in there, immortalized forever. They are Stanley Cup champions. So, congratulations to them. And also, again, the Kachuk family. Keith Kachuk never won the cup. Probably should have at some point. He was a beast of a player. But Matt Kachuk finally finishes it off. He gets a family for the he gets a cup for the Kachuk family.
He gets a family for the cup?
He gets a family for the cup. He gets a cup for the family. Brady looked really happy, but Brady did not touch it. Brady is following protocol, which is you do not touch the cup unless you have earned it. There's a protocol on the cup. And I will also say...
I wouldn't give a shit, I'm not going to lie to you.
I will also say that there is...
I'd be that guy.
Yes, but there is...
I feel like
the NHL is the only league, in my opinion, that does it right. So if you look at every other league and how they present their trophy, the trophy goes to whom? The general manager or the owner. They get the trophy first. Yeah, the other players are going to get it eventually, but they always give it to the owner or general manager first.
I thought the coaches typically were also in that first.
Or the coach, yeah, that too.
Like, I think that's okay in, like, certain... Like, football, that actually makes some sense, obviously. Like, typically, coach and quarterback are typically near each other at the time with the owner and general manager. Yeah, but it's usually the coach
or the owner or the GM who gets the trophy and then hands it to...
the quarterback. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying that it's... In those situations, that's if it's the coach first or the coach and GM at the same time, I'm okay with that to a degree. Now, if it's just the straight-up owner, that one feels a little like...
Yeah,
great
but you could
job. You had the deep pockets. Well done.
Yeah. Now I will say hockey. The first person to get the cup, by the way, the first person to get the cup is the captain of the fucking team.
Yeah.
It's handed to him by the commissioner of the league, and then he hands it. Everybody that is a player touches the cup before the coach, the GM, or the owner gets their hands on it.
Well, I was just gonna say, don't forget, as much as you and I might not necessarily watch it a lot, soccer does a pretty good job of that too.
Yeah. I will say that their cups, generally, the players are the ones that get it.
The players
first.
typically the coach on the field or the GM on the field with the players, and that's pretty much it. Owners are like the last ones that touch those things.
Yeah, and I feel like hockey is just a weird version of soccer on ice.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, I could agree with that.
The same overall. There are some differences in strategy, but
there's some
overall,
differences, but a lot of similarities.
If you watch ball movement compared to puck movement to score,
yeah,
it's very similar.
Yeah. You
crossing
have the
passes,
offsides and the way you have crosses.
Yeah.
The only difference is that, like, obviously the ball going in the air is the big difference, right? The puck isn't exactly... You don't typically throw that in the air on purpose a lot. I guess you can.
Yeah, there are points where you do want to, like if you're clearing, if you're trying to clear down during a penalty kill or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But
you're
rarely
you
also
don't
have a penalty box for soccer players. But overall, the idea of the crossing pass to the...
Though you do get carded.
You do get carded, but I mean, like, the crossing pass, the tip-ins, the misdirects, that is very similar.
No, there's a lot of similarities.
There's a lot of similarities between ball movement and puck movement. I'm not saying they're a one-for-one exactly, because
and
quite
the same
obviously,
thing with, like, all players have to be able to play
punch...
attack and defense, you know? Yeah.
Because obviously you cannot punch a rival player in the face in soccer. Or at least you're not supposed to. You get carded. You get carded
if you watch the lower leagues, bro, they actually get pretty dirty with each other, actually.
But the tackles that you do in soccer, you can't do that in hockey. You're not allowed to
No, I feel like the blades might be a problem
that might
with
be
that.
A problem.
Yeah. Don't be kicking people with the blades. We learned this earlier.
100%. I will say there have been some big time trades. We're going to go over that because they started before the draft. So we are going to go over some trades. We're going to go over some trades that happened during the draft, and we're going to go over a bit of the draft. Because I did have a favorite point in this draft, and it was the 3rd overall pick. And we'll talk about why in a minute. So, the big trades, first off, Darcy Kemper, goaltender for the Capitals, has been traded to the Los Angeles Kings for Pierre-Luc Dubois, and it's a straight up 1-for-1 deal. And you might remember the Kings traded a farm basically for him to get his signing rights, his RFA rights, from the Jets last offseason, and then handed him a big contract, which he utterly failed to live up to.
Fail? Fair? Fair?
Fail and fair.
Words.
Yes. Kemper didn't have a bad year as a goaltender, but he hasn't lived up to his contract either because the Caps signed him right after he helped the Avs win a cup. Backstopped the Colorado Avalanche to a cup. So, didn't exactly, you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, sir.
So that happened.
The words that are coming out of your mouth do make sense.
So it's a change of scenery trade for both of them. Mm. We'll have to see how it goes. Now, big time moves, because there's been a couple of them, mostly from Tampa's made 3 moves recently that have been very, 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 very interesting. All right, big one. This one, the Ottawa Senators made a trade with the Boston Bruins. They trade away Eunice Korpisalo, a goalie, Mark Kastelik, and a first-round pick in 2024 for Linus Ullmark, goalie, who is one of the big goalies in Boston who helped backstop them to multiple runs. That's pretty good because the Sens' biggest weakness has been goaltending for quite some time now. Now they have a proven goaltender in the net with some young defense in front of him and a very young offensively minded core ahead of him. That could be very, very good for them. I'm pretty happy with that for Ottawa. San Jose traded Kyle Burrows, a defenseman, for forward Carl Grunderstrom. That's a good pick for San Jose. They've done some interesting stuff recently. The Capitals get Andrew Mangiapane from the Flames for a second-round pick in 2025. Again, I like that one. I think that was pretty doggone good. The Blues got Alexandre Texier from the Blue Jackets for a 4th-round pick. I think that's good. I feel like Texier's growth in Columbus had come to kind of a halt, and he needs a change of scenery for that. So I'm pretty overall happy with that. Lots of trades during the draft, but I'm looking for it. There it is. Utah, the brand new Utah Hockey Club. They used to be the Coyotes. They acquired Mikhail Sergachev from the Lightning for J.J. Moser and Connor Geekie in a 7th. Now, why did... and a 2nd in 2025. Now, why did that cost them so little in the long run for a guy like Sergachev? It's because Sergachev had a $9 million cap hit and Tampa Bay retained nothing. Utah is taking the whole contract, which is huge for what Tampa's trying to do right now. That clears $9 million off their books. Utah also acquired John Marino and a 5th from the Devils for a 2nd in 2024 and a 2nd in 2025. And then the Kings acquired Tanner Jeannot from the Lightning for a 4th and in 2024 and a 2nd in 2025. Those were big because Jeannot is at the end of a $2.7 something million contract, but I believe he signed an extension that's really rich, and Tampa doesn't really want him around because Tampa made another trade today where they acquired the rights. I think it's for like a 2nd or 3rd round pick to Jake Gensel. It's a third to Carolina next year, a third next year. Which means they have today to negotiate a contract with him before he hits the free agent market. They have a chance. They have first chance at him, which they've wanted because apparently Steven Stamkos is going to test free agency, and he has officially told this to the Lightning. So Stamkos is gone. But they're trying to bring in Gensel. It also frees up money for them to be able to sign Victor Hedman to an extension. There's a couple of things like that. This was what that, like, everybody was really kind of uppity about the way that Tampa has been handling a lot of this. Because they're like, oh my God, Tampa's going to go for a rebuild. We're going to suck. No. They're trying to clear up cap space so that they can do not a rebuild, but a retool. They're just trying to because they've got, you've still got Hedman, you still got Point, you still got Kucherov, you still got Vasilevsky. You're just trying to put some younger pieces in place that you're still good. Along with them acquiring that, Tampa has traded away a young undrafted player that was playing in for the Marlies, and I want to say a 7th in 2026 for the rights to sign Chris Tanev. Defenseman, shoots right. He's 34. So they want to get that done today. Tampa also has to worry about Max Domi. They'd like to try to re-sign Bertuzzi. There's a couple of guys they need to either tender or get contracts under as well that are RFAs. Overall, it's looking very interesting. Stamkos is going to be out there. Who knows where he's going to wind up going for the final years of his career. He's already got, 3 cups? 4 cups? Something like that. So that's bonkers. The dude's a beast. I don't know where he's going. Now, Minnesota did make a trade at the draft. We traded away Vinny Lettieri and a pick to Boston for Jacob Lauko and a pick. We moved down a bit in the draft. We ended up using the pick on a guy who at one point was considered a first-round talent at defense and then suffered a massively huge injury. And obviously slipped all the way down to pick 122 or something. His name is Aaron Kiviharu. He is from the Finnish-Swedish leagues over there. He's gonna be. I think he's a great defender. But again, we're not gonna know for a couple of years how he recovers from that injury. But if he does recover, again, our D-core isn't exactly young. We are letting Goose walk. Goligoski is out. And recently, the captain Spurgeon has been injured a lot. It's like he missed all of last season with injuries. You've got Brock Faber, who's a good young guy coming in. You've got Zeev Bouillon, who's left. So you could pair Bouillon and Faber together. Those two are going to be that's a great tandem. You've got Carson Lambos, who's going to make his comeuppance soon. You've got a couple other young guys. You've still got Brodin, who's an absolute shutdown defender. So we'll see how that all works out. Supposedly the Wild would like to trade away the Gus Bus, even though they just got him last year and signed him to a big deal. He did lose his starting position to the Flower, and now, of course, we've got Jesper Wallstedt. Looks like he's ready to come up and play significant minutes. So we've got Flower. Flower got extended. Marc-Andre Fleury was extended for another year, and he has already publicly stated this is it. This is his final year in hockey. He is retiring at the end of this season.
Gotcha.
He has come out and officially stated that he's done. That's it. I'm out. I would guess that if I were him, once I'm going to retire, I'm going to sign like a 1 or 2 day contract with the Penguins so I can retire a Penguin because that's where all of my bones were made. Um, I think that'll be a thing. But he sounds like he's been very happy in Minnesota, so he did take a 1 year cheapy extension. So it's possible if we trade Gustafson, you could see a Fleury Wallstedt tandem in net next year, and I don't think that's horrible. Like I like Wallstedt. I think he could be a really good goalie. So we'll have to see if that's what they do or not. Um, so NHL the draft. Sorry, there's not a lot for you to talk about because
No, yeah.
we'll talk about.
I didn't watch. I just didn't watch the draft. I didn't really get to
I
watch a lot of the
watched.
finals.
I
Work
watched
has
the
kept
first
me.
round of
Yeah.
the draft. Um, I will say in the finals, there was a guy who didn't score that you would have expected to.
I mean, I didn't expect the Panthers to be even in the finals. So I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you would have expected Leon Draisaitl to score, but Leon Draisaitl had 0 goals in the finals. I believe he had 1 assist. McDavid, on the other hand, game 4 and 5, he had 4-point games. He had 8 points in 2 games.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody's got to do the scoring.
I mean, it's McJesus. What do you expect?
Yeah.
But we'll also talk about awards for the NHL because I do have a bone to pick with one particular award.
You always have a bone to pick with any of the awards.
I'll explain why on this one, and pretty much.
But I just think it's funny because if it's NFL or like almost every single year, there's always at least 1 or 2 awards. You're like, I got something to say about this one.
I'll see if you agree with me on this because you might, because it's
We'll see.
bonkers. Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
So in the draft, of course, the Sharks took Macklin Celebrini first overall. That was 100% expected. 100% expected. Third overall is where things got weird. Because the Anaheim Ducks selected a kid named, I want to say it's Beckett Seneke. From Anaheim picked him. Now, when they picked him, he went, what? They never talked to him. They never interviewed him. They had given 0 indication that they had any interest in him whatsoever.
That was part of their strategy, apparently.
He looked super surprised, like just caught him utterly off guard. And I think that was the best reaction of the night, just because he looked like, huh? Like, he was expected to go first round, but he went 3rd overall and just looked utterly bamboozled by the fact that he went 3rd overall. I highly recommend that if you can, go on YouTube, watch that. It's totally worth the watch. It's hilarious. I feel for I hope he does great, but that was the most amazing draft reaction of all time. Utah, of course, moving to Utah, immediately started beef with Calgary by picking Tisha Ginla. 5th overall. Which highly hilarious to me. Great draft pick. Highly hilarious. Yeah. Overall, I don't think there were any major losers in the draft. We don't know how any of these players are going to pan out.
No.
And this was one of those weird deep drafts where there weren't. Obviously, you had the guy who everybody knew was going to go first overall, but you didn't have like a franchise guy. You just had a bunch of elite, really good players. You didn't have you didn't have a McDavid or a Bedard or something along those lines. You didn't have that guy that everybody knew was, okay, that's the dude.
Yeah.
Obviously Macklin Celebrini was the guy at the top, but he could have fallen off and you could have swapped him out with a couple of different players. Um, and that's why this draft was so weird, is because there was a bunch of good, really solid talent, but nothing that was mind blowing.
Right.
Everything was within a set rate that you can look at and you can go, okay, well that makes sense. I like that. And so you're gonna see. I think a lot of this draft class is going to become all stars and all pros, and I don't know that any of that all of them or that a whole group of them will become Hall of Famers, but several of them probably will. Um, and they're all going to be, guys that are considered stars and superstars, maybe not franchise stars, but stars and superstars when they make their appearance. So just expect that. There wasn't a lot of goalie talent in this draft. Next year, 2025's got some goalie talent. But this year, not so much. Yeah. But no, so that's kind of my feelings on the draft, is that I think everybody did well. Um, Even teams that didn't have a lot of draft picks, like Tampa, did well because they traded back and picked up a second round pick, and then they traded away that second round pick to get more draft stuff. Um, and I think they did good for the limited picks they had, and they got more picks and stuff for next year and whatnot. So I think they did pretty good. I'm also very happy with them managing to get Chris Tanev away from Dallas, at least his signing rights. Tampa grabbing the signing rights to Gensel. I haven't heard yet if they've signed him, but that's, again, we'll hear sometime today about that. And then officially free agency starts tomorrow. And obviously Stamkos is going to be the big fish in that pond. I will also say Buffalo bought out the last 3 years of Jeff Skinner's contract, which I like for Buffalo because they still have the option if they want to bring him back at a lower rate. But the dude was making $9 million for maybe 30 goals a season. His contract was ridiculously overpriced. And I think even at the most expensive, which I think it's 2 years from now, because I think it's a 6-year buyout or a 5-year buyout, and I want to say 2 years from now it's like $6.5 million. That's still better than $9 million. There's still a $2.5 million friggin' rebate there. So overall, it cost them less to buy him out than it did to finish paying him. So I'm overall quite happy with that contract. But Skinner at like $4 million somewhere, 4.5 would make some sense. Anyway, the awards, the big ones that got done. I don't have a problem with most of them. The players MVP award, the one that the players vote for, went to Colorado Avalanche. Nathan MacKinnon. MacKinnon got it. I can agree with that. It's the player's choice. Good grab. Okay, sure. The Vezina Award winner for the best goalie went to Connor Hellebuck of the Jets. Okay. And in fact, all three of those guys, I was like, all right, I can, you know what? Because it was Hellebuck, Demko, and Bobrovsky. And you know what? Any three of those, any one of them, I'd have been happy with them winning the hardware. Now, I will say generally, if you win the Stanley Cup, you don't get hardware with it. Generally, that goes to other people. The Calder Award obviously went to Bedard. I'm not going to pick a bone with it, but I feel like Brock Faber was more important to his team. Well, Bedard was super important to his team, but I feel like Faber did more. Bedard scored more, yada, 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 but I feel like Faber, especially the amount of minutes he played and for as little errors as he made, and they put him in charge of power plays and just all the responsibility they heaped on Faber, I feel like he should have won it. But That's not the bone I'm going to pick. I'm okay with Bedard winning it. So I will say I would have liked to have seen Faber win it, but I can understand Bedard. It doesn't chap me. Um, the Best Defender award that went to Quinn Hughes. Totally get it. Makes sense. He had the most points among defensemen. He was still a good defenseman. Played the puck well. Absolutely makes perfect sense for him to win that award. MVP. This is where I get sideways. Let me explain. I
No.
utterly. Huh?
What?
I don't get why he won. I feel like he was second. So it comes down to McDavid, McKinnon, and Kucherov. Let me read you their stats and let's see who you would pick. Starting with Connor McDavid from this last season. Now, do remember that McDavid already has playoff MVP. But this last season, he played in 76 games. He had 32 goals and 100 assists for 132 points. He's only the third person ever to hit 100 assists in a single season. The only other two people to do it before him were Wayne Gretzky and Jaromir Jagr. Should tell you something, right? Now, Nathan McKinnon. Nathan McKinnon played in all 82 games. He had 51 goals and 89 assists for 140 points. That's pretty doggone good, in my opinion. Like, you played really hard for that. Finally, the third player, Nikita Kucherov, played 81 games. He missed a game. Had 44 goals and 100 assists. He is the fourth player to hit 100 assists in a season, making it a few days after Connor McDavid did it, for a total of 144 points. Who would you say was the MVP of the league?
It depends on how you weigh everything, because I could make an argument for any one of those players to have MVP rights. To be completely honest with you, it just depends on which stand you want to take. If you catch my drift,
Mm-hmm.
like you and I both know, in reality, any one of those players deserves that MVP. It just depends on, do you weigh goals more? Do you weigh assists more? Do you weigh when it was accomplished, how it was accomplished, under what circumstances was it accomplished, right? There's a lot of different ways you can do this. I'm going to assume, because I actually don't know. I want to make this clear. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
who actually was named MVP. I'm going to assume it was McKinnon that got MVP.
It was, and I feel like it should have been Kucherov, because he also
I
had
can.
four
I was
more
gonna say
points.
I was gonna say I can argue why, because we do have to also understand that it isn't just, one person makes the judgment, right? It is technically voted on by several
Writers.
quote unquote influential individuals, right? Um, and so some people might have voted for Kucherov, and some people might have voted just more for McKinnon because they saw the goals as more of a, in their mind, an impressive feat, right? So I get it. I think I agree with you. I would probably lean more Kucherov. I think that sounds more of an impressive feat, but I can understand also why McKinnon was chosen.
Yeah, I guess my thing was I felt like out of all of them, to me, it always felt like Kucherov and maybe McDavid were the two that people were looking at. But when I looked at McDavid's overall stats, even the 100 assists, I was like, okay. He's
Yeah,
probably third. Like, I feel like it's impressive, but it's not the most. You also have to remember you're fighting. McDavid, especially, is fighting himself because that's
I was
not
gonna
the most
say.
impressive season he's had.
I was gonna say, and that's the big thing I was gonna say, because I was gonna say that that sounds good, but I was gonna say if we reflect on previous seasons, we know we can get better, and so because of that, you're gonna get knocked harder for it because of that.
100%. And and to me, I get why. Um, I don't like it. Just me personally, because McKinnon, like, had he led the league in goals and gotten those amount of assists and had 140 points, I'd have been like, okay, yeah, no, that makes sense,
Yeah,
perfectly. But he didn't lead the league in goals. The guy who led the league in goals didn't even get nominated.
that's
It
fair.
was Austin Matthews. I believe he had like 69.
Mm,
Stupid amount of goals, but didn't
right.
get nominated. I get that though
Probably didn't
too.
have as many assists, I
He
assume.
did not. He did not have as many points.
Right.
Like if we look at Austin Matthews' record, his totals, just to put it in perspective,
Yeah.
he played 81 games, 69 goals, 38 assists for 107 points.
Phew, yeah.
Yeah, you lead the league in scoring, but you don't have the other stuff to go with it. Yeah,
Yep.
you're going to go for the Rocket, but you're not going to get anywhere near
Yeah.
the MVP trophy. Sorry,
Exactly.
that's just not going to happen. But yeah, look, I 100% I can see the argument for McKinnon, but again,
Yeah.
I feel like Kucherov kind of got robbed. I feel like his season was more impressive. He had more overall points. He had way more assists. He was only a little bit behind on what 51 to 44. He was 7 goals
Yeah.
behind McKinnon, and had way more assists and overall more points. I feel like the biggest difference was their plus minus. Kucherov was only like a +8, where McKinnon was like a +13 or something.
Hmm.
So, but I'd never liked plus minus anyway. But I can, like I said, it's
Again, it's an argument people would make, though.
yeah,
Especially those people that are voting for it. You know.
and I can understand that. Doesn't mean I have to like it. Now, I
Yeah.
want to talk about one other thing before we start, because I don't remember if we managed to talk about it. I know this one we haven't, but there's also one last little bit football wise, because I don't remember if we talked about it or not.
Hmm.
Anyway, first things, the corruption, the absolute and utter BS corruption of both the NHL and the NHL Hall of Fame. This is kind of a rant, so you'll have to keep up with me here.
Go ahead, I guess.
All right, so there's a guy. I do not remember his name right now. Back in 2010, he was the vice president of hockey operations. And his son played for a team. I don't remember what team off the top of my head. And this guy had a vendetta against a couple of refs who would call penalties on his son. And he was trying to find a way to get them removed and fired. This is not supposition. This is not conspiracy theory. They have hard, actual evidence of this in email chains. And then there was the time that his son's team was playing Boston, and I can't remember the name of the captain of Boston at the time, but somebody came, Cook, came right behind him, elbowed him in the head, knocked him completely unconscious, out cold on the ice. And this guy, who had to hear the hearing on it, decided that that wasn't worth a fine, a suspension, nothing. It was worth nothing. It was incidental. Later on, when his son, I believe, was playing for the Bruins, they were playing against, I want to say it was the Canucks in the finals, and one of the Canucks did the same thing to a Bruin, Oh well, now it's a suspension. They suspended that player 4 games in the middle of the Stanley Cup Finals for the same thing that Cook did not get suspended for. Um, and then eventually that guy would go into the Stanley Cup Hall of Fame, or not the Stanley Cup, the Hockey Hall of Fame. Just like Gary Bettman is in the Hockey Hall of Fame. The problem with the Hockey Hall of Fame, and a lot of this, is that we have no idea. We never see the ballots. We don't know the votes. We don't even know who votes. It's kind of like voting for Pope. Although even that has more clarity because we know it's the Cardinals. In this case, we have no idea who votes in the Hockey Hall of Fame. And there are some people that have made it in that maybe shouldn't have, and some people that are still out that you go, why haven't they made it in? Two cases of people that have not made it in compared to one that just did. Two people that haven't made it in. The first one, McGinley is his name. M-O-G, Alexander McGinley. Dude played 990 games and had over 1,000 points in the NHL. Yeah, and in a couple of seasons, he had like 127, 138. He had some really great seasons. Got injured a lot, but he played his booty off. The other one is a guy that you may have heard of named Paul Kariya. Major player for the Ducks. Unfortunately, injuries did shorten his career, and it ended pretty early. But statistically, he should have been in. Because one of the guys they just sent in kind of had the same thing just now. Jeremy Roenick. Roenick was never selected to an all-star team, was never an all-pro, never won a cup, never won a major award. Numbers say that he should be in. So why isn't McGinley in? Why isn't Kariya in? There's a whole bunch of guys that should be in that aren't, and then there are guys like the guy I was talking about who we have the smoking gun that says that he's a jerk, that says that he was attempting to use his position. By the way, he's still to this day involved in the NHL. He is now the president of hockey operations. The other one that I don't understand about the Hockey Hall of Fame. All right, Shea Weber went in this year. Shea Weber is still collecting a paycheck from the Utah Hockey Club because his contract was traded there. Even though he's never going to play hockey again, Shea Weber is still collecting an active NHL paycheck. However, they won't put Jaromir Jagr in because he's still playing for a club that he owns over in the Czech leagues. What? But this guy can collect an active NHL paycheck and go in? I don't get it. And it's the same thing for as we mentioned, Gary went in. The president of hockey operations is in. Those two guys are still execs drawing a paycheck from the NHL, and they can go in. So why not? See, it's so... It's so goofy. I don't know if you have feelings on all of that I just said.
Sounds like a lot of normal sports bullshit, unfortunately.
You know what?
Let's be
You're kind of right, to be honest, which is so weird. But I'll say, with the other leagues, like MLB, you can see the votes. They publish who voted and who voted where.
But you look at the NFL, and you know who votes, but you don't necessarily see the votes.
That's very true. I will, unless they self-publish it, which sometimes they do.
Some people do, like Rich Eisen will typically.
Rich Eisen typically will tell you, yes.
Yeah.
Like Rich.
But not all of them do. Actually, a lot of them don't.
You are correct. All right.
So it's just another one of those things where it's just they're not quite as bad, but it still kind of makes you question things.
So that leads us into potentially the last little bit we have, which is the small smidgen of drip NFL news that we currently have.
Which is very little, actually.
There is very little. There's one
There's
piece
not
of
been a lot going on.
news, and then some other stuff. I don't know if we mentioned it last time because I don't know if it had happened, but yes, officially JJ has been extended for the Vikings.
Yeah.
Massive deal. A lot of money involved in that. But yes, Justin Jefferson has been extended. Trevor Lawrence has been extended. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
It's a correct. Okay. How to word this?
It's the right thing.
Right idea, right thing to do. Maybe not the right money.
That is exactly what I was going to say. I think they kind of overpaid. It's the right thing to do because at least you know what he is, at least mostly, as a quarterback. He's not hitting the level that you hoped he would hit.
Yeah.
But he doesn't
but he's still
suck.
Pretty dang good.
Yeah, he doesn't suck either.
He's definitely the best quarterback you've had, period.
Yeah, and just letting him go and having no plan at quarterback that's horrible. No,
that would have been really stupid.
That would have been really stupid. So. Yeah, so I'll come out and say it. Right thing to do. Maybe you overpaid. Maybe
we'll see. We'll see how he develops. Continue because
exactly.
Now he's still developing.
He could absolutely wind up being worth that contract. I don't 100% know. Right now,
but at the moment, based on what we've seen so far, granted that first year was, I think everyone admits that first year didn't fucking count.
It shouldn't have.
So he is a year behind, which is what makes this deal a little harder because you're like, okay, you still know he's still developing, but at the same time, so you kind of have to hope that he's still going to hit that status that you're expecting that he had in college, right?
Yeah, 100%. So. I agree with that. The Chiefs have cut Isaiah Buggs, who has had one too many legal run-ins with the law.
Yes.
One too many.
I still don't get it. Like, how can you... Side rant. How can you make even, like, a decent amount of money in the NFL, like, over 6 figures in the NFL, and still do stupid shit and get arrested? Like, how can you set yourself up for such a good, successful life and then just throw it away?
Conspiracy theory?
Come on.
Do you want my conspiracy theory on this?
Okay, go ahead.
They're paying him. The Chiefs are under the table paying him a lot of money to take the light off of Worthy.
That is some great conspiracy theory.
Off of Rashi Rice and all of his stuff, and off of Pat Mahomes and Pat Mahomes' dad doing dumb shit.
That's such a good conspiracy theory.
It's so good, isn't it?
It's so borderline insane, though. It's like right on that edge. It's
borderline insane, but you could also go, well, maybe.
I seriously doubt it, but it's still a funny thought.
I doubt it too. But you would.
But to be fair,
if it came out that was the case, you wouldn't go, well, that's just dumb. You'd be like, yeah, no, I can see that.
To be fair, I mean in general, when you see players that get involved in this stuff like that, I just meant in general, not necessarily him in particular.
I know.
But yeah, I just don't get in general how someone has that mindset where, like, I have it set up good and now I have to throw it away. Like,
because they
it's almost self-defeating. It's crazy.
You come from not having a lot to suddenly having everything, and so you begin to act like what you think somebody who has everything does. Not only that, a lot of them, like, look at the kid John Morant from the Memphis Grizzlies, right? And we talked a lot about this, but it all depends on who you surround yourself with. He kept the same circle around him from when he didn't have anything, and now they're his yes men. They will do and say whatever inane thing. If he comes out and says, hey guys, I think I want to buy a sports car and jump it off of a bridge. Yeah, man, you can totally do that. Hell yeah, go do it. Nobody's going to say, dude, What the fuck is wrong
That's
with you?
such a waste of money. What the fuck are you doing?
What are you doing? As long as the tap stays on and they keep getting money from him, they're going to say whatever he wants to hear.
Yeah.
And when they have inane ideas, he's going to back them up because they've been his homies the whole time. So
It's just I get it. It's just frustrating to see because you're just like, man, because it's more frustrating from the perspective, not necessarily like I'm not looking at it from the viewpoint of like, oh man, if only that was me. I mean it more from the perspective of, man, in I don't know how long, but like 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, they're gonna look back and go, man, I fucked that up, and they're gonna regret their decisions, and that's just a sad thing
yeah,
to think about.
yeah. I can't help but wonder about some guys like that. Which leads perfectly into my next little blurb, which is the former first overall pick of the Oakland Raiders, Jamarcus Russell, is once again in legal trouble. He has been fired from the high school coaching job he had,
Mm-hmm.
and is apparent because apparently he took a check for $74,000 meant for the school and kept it for himself.
God damn it, dude. He's down bad, man. Jeez. Like, did you really think you'd get away with it, though? Like, come on.
I, I don't know.
Because, like, obviously, like, if that amount of money for a school, they're gonna, like, be like, hey, we didn't get the money. And they're gonna be like, but we gave it to the coach. And they're gonna be like, hey, Russell, where's that money? I don't know. Hey, can we check your bank accounts? Oh, look, there's that money. Like, come on. It's not even.
Yeah.
It's not even a good attempt, man. Like, damn.
No, but I mean,
was he getting paid so shit that like that $72,000 was that enticing? God damn.
And you do read about that, and you just go, okay, whatever.
It just makes you hurt a little on the inside.
Exactly.
Like, poor dude, man.
Come on.
Like,
man.
at the same time, like, you kind of do it to yourself, man.
Yeah. Now, also, the last little bit is that Atlanta has been fined for tampering with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
It was a monetary fine. It wasn't very big. No loss of draft picks, nothing like that.
It was exactly what I said.
It's exactly what you thought it was going to be. And now,
yeah,
it could have been more, but it was never going to be. It was always going to be some kind of a small fine.
People kept saying it was going to be a big thing, that the draft picks were going to be a thing. I called it out right away, and I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah,
there's no precedent that they've ever done where that was
a lot of people smoking hopium.
Yeah, it really was. And frankly, it was just kind of a silly thing in the first place, and that's why it was mostly just a slap on the wrist, because it was just a silly, stupid thing in the first place.
Yeah, it wasn't something that was going to be a major thing, and I think everybody kind of knew that going in.
Like, they wanted to try to like put it on that whole thing of like, we only lost Kirk because of this, and that's like, no, that's not even true. We basically didn't even want him at all at that point because of the money he was asking for. There was at that point when Kirk reached out and talked to the quote unquote trainer at that point, like, the deal was pretty much struck at that point. Like, everyone knew what was going to happen at that point. At least within the team.
And,
so, like,
and now you've got
to try to like say that you deserve a draft pick for that. Like, it's a ridiculous thing.
It's so funny because we were the fan base was so against Kirk for a long period, and now all you see online are these vocal people going, "Oh, we need to get rid of both O'Connell and Mensah because they didn't re-sign Kirk and we're gonna suck." And it's like, you're the same people who said Kirk sucked and we should be running a team out of town because Kirk sucked. You know what? This is a damned if you do, damned if you don't. And some of you just want to be unhappy. So go be miserable. And you know what? There's a whole segment of the fandom that just wants to stay miserable. Do it. Please
it's
do
no
it.
Different than it's no different than I saw an article recently that was that basically went, Denver made the right choice by sticking with Bo Nix and not moving up to get J.J. McCarthy. And it was this whole article about like how Bo Nix is looking great in practice, and it looks like he's making huge strides forward. But if you watch J.J. McCarthy in practice, he hasn't been looking quite as good. And it's just like, guys, we can't. That's so much. You can't compare. Like, that's apples to oranges, my guys.
It's different systems.
Completely different systems, completely different teams with completely different players with completely different coaches. Shut the fuck up. God.
100%.
You have no idea how the progression of these players are going to be.
Exactly.
It's been, what,
Well, you know what?
2 months? Jesus
you can
Christ.
say that. You can say that in 10 years if Bo Nix is a multi-time Super Bowl MVP winner and J.J. McCarthy is washed out of the league.
Yeah,
but if that never happens, you can't make that comparison.
No, it was just so funny. I'm just like, man, you guys want to jump on that fucking trade. The amount of articles that I've been reading that are supposedly from Minnesota fucking sports writers being like, J.J. McCarthy's not looking really good. Sam Darnold's looking amazing. And great. If Sam Darnold's looking amazing, then who gives a shit if J.J. isn't looking good right now? He's not supposed to look good year one! Oh! This was the point. Did everyone forget the memo where we've all stated Sam Darnold's playing year one, JJ's not? We've already established that JJ was going to look like shit. He has to learn the system. He has to learn to play in the NFL.
I don't think they have that memo.
This was almost everyone who, you and I and a bunch of people that I know went, yeah, we're drafting JJ as a prospect. Everyone knows he's a really good prospect, but he's not playing year one. He's not year one ready. So he's going to sit behind Sam Darnold, who's definitely ready to play. Did we just forget that this was information? Fucking Christ. Oh, God. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
Okay. Last little thing that I can remember off the top of my head that was football related. Of course, it has to be the most talked about person in the league.
Which one? There's actually quite a few of them.
Yeah, but there's one guy that seems to get his more than his fair share of media attention, and it is the New York Jets.
Are we talking about the Rodgers one?
Yep. Yeah. Yep, New York Jets quarterback. Aaron Rodgers missed mandatory minicamps. Got fined.
I'm not gonna.
I don't really care because he's Aaron fucking Rodgers.
Do we forget that he used to do this with the Packers too? Why is this a big deal? Why is it? This isn't a big deal.
Well, he didn't have a good excuse, and it's also because it's New York. Everything that happens in New York is put under a microscope.
I know, but it's so dumb. He used to do this with the Packers all the time.
He did it all the time. This is why I don't care. But it is
non-news.
It is something that made the news, so I felt like we should at least mention it.
Fair, but it's still non-news.
It is not. It is 100%.
This is more like in later news. Dog sniffs ass.
100%. And you know what?
Duh?
If he comes in this year and they make a deep playoff run and everything else, nobody's going to remember this.
No, nobody's going to remember this.
Now, if his other Achilles explodes 5 plays into the season.
Dude, if that happens, I think Aaron Rodgers has to just straight retire right there because clearly
like,
the football gods have said you're done.
He should just go, well, apparently this means I'm done because apparently somebody is telling me I shouldn't play football anymore.
Yep, the football gods have deemed you done.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. That I would laugh even though I shouldn't.
I mean, it would be humorous, but for all the wrong reasons.
Yes.
It'd be like a dark humor thing where you just like, it's a train wreck that's just funny. I don't know what to... Aww. It's a train wreck just like you.
Just like,
I don't know what to do, man.
Sometimes you just look at something and you go, this is going to go... It's one of those things like if you've ever worked in an office and you heard something, an idea that somebody had, that they put out, and you just go... I can see the train coming, and this is going to be... I already
know something is... Yeah.
This is going to be horrible, but I'm not going to say shit because you're not going to listen to me anyway. I'm just going to sit back and watch this happen.
I'm just going to sip my coffee as I watch this unfold.
And it's going to be... You have to laugh at it because otherwise you'd cry and throw shit.
Yeah, you're just like, this is so dumb, but I have to watch... Like, I know I'm going to have to help clean up the mess, but God, this is going to be glorious to watch it happen.
I can, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, totally one of those things where you're like, oh my god,
Yeah, pretty much.
this is going to go so poorly.
Now, I seriously doubt that it's going to happen.
Yeah, I do
I
too.
think.
I do too.
Now, granted, how well is he going to come back from that? I don't know. I guess we're going to find out.
Yeah, and I mean,
It's going
even
to be
if he's
interesting.
not totally 100%, he is getting a little older anyway. Even if
Yeah.
he's 80%, that's still way better than anything they've
It's
had
still
recently.
a lot better than they've had. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And with their good,
I think-
they've got a
I think
decent
the-
receiving core,
Yeah, they have a pretty good shot at playoffs. I'd be really surprised if they don't.
especially considering how good their defense is. Yes.
Yeah.
100%. I feel like they're one of the teams that I really like for the playoffs this year.
Oh yeah, they're definitely a favorite. I think it'd be really weird to not have them favored in one way or another.
100%.
Granted, we had that last year, and then
Yeah, but I mean, like, who could have expected 5 plays into the season?
I mean, hey, if you have a bet right now, maybe it's the time to place a bet, and it's only gonna be like $1. And I bet you it's like if there's a betting site that has a bet on that, you put a bet on it for $1. I bet you could make millions of dollars off of that bet if that happens.
More than likely. More than likely. All right. That is the end of anything I have. I would like to say the next time we do this, I have a little exercise I want us to try that I think would be fun. I want us to look at every head coach in the league and rate them on a hot seat between 0 and 10. 0 meaning absolutely not getting fired. 10 meaning, holy shit, if you make it 5 games into the season, I'll be surprised. I don't think there are any 10s right now.
Interesting. It's funny you say that because I feel like I saw somebody do something about coaching hot seats recently. Actually.
I got it off of a guy who was doing it on TikTok. I just thought,
Oh, okay. No,
I just thought-
I saw a video on it.
Yeah,
I didn't
saw
watch it, but I saw it come up, and I was like, "Oh, that was a good idea." Because I even thought about it, and I didn't
yeah,
say
and I
anything,
was
but
like, that's
"Oh."
a good idea. I think we should do that.
Yeah.
Totally taking someone else's idea. We're obviously probably gonna have different opinions than him,
Oh yeah.
and that's why he did it 0 to 5, and that's why I did it 0 to 10, which is why I wanted to give us more
Wiggle room.
leeway, more runway.
Yeah.
That way we can have more variance.
Fair enough.
So next time, I think we'll try that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I can. I'd have to really look at the. That's gonna have to make me really look at some of its coaches a little bit more closely because. Thinking off the top of my head, I'm like, there's not that many coaches I think would be really in the hot seat. But then I look at it some more and I think about it like, well, it depends on the owners they also have. So maybe that's not true.
You and I were thinking the exact same because I'll be straight up. Dave Canales is a brand new head coach
He's already in the hot seat.
because it's David Tepper who fires coaches.
Has a
on
hot
whim.
fucking head.
Yeah, and a hot hand, and just bang, you're gone.
Pretty much.
All right, guys. We don't have anything else here. We will be having some fun later on today, doing some other stuff. But this is it for the podcast for today. Not 100% sure when we'll record again. It will be probably, I would guess, right around, what would you say, August? When the preseason starts getting going?
Possibly around.
We might do
there,
another one. We
and
might do one in.
Might get that one out like right at the end of July, maybe.
Yeah,
before
maybe
the
do another
preseason.
one right at the end of July, and then do one in start getting them going in August when the preseason hits for the NFL.
Yeah, because then we have our, because we've done our preseason.
We gotta do
rankings, we then have to
post-preseason
do our
rankings.
post-preseason rankings.
And we're gonna want to follow kind of what's happening in the preseason and if anybody gets injured.
Yep.
And yep. So that's where we'll go. So until the end of July, which is probably when we'll do another one, and we'll probably recap NHL free agency at that point and any major NBA free agency stuff that's happened and whatever else. We hope that everybody here has an awesome summer. Enjoy your 4th of July. We hope that whatever you put your mind to, you can go ahead and accomplish it. Most of all, we want you to stay bearded